Okay, so today's lesson, if you've read it, I'm sure you have, it's a little later here. Most of you have probably been doing it all day. My mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. And I was sitting here, as I was sitting here thinking about the lesson. Um, there's good news in this lesson, and there's obviously some news that may not be so welcome. I mean, when he says no one really sees anything, he sees only his thoughts projected outward. The mind's preoccupation with the past is the cause of the misconceptions about time from which seeing suffers. It doesn't say you suffer, it says your seeing suffers. You're perfect and whole as God created you. You may have been, in this sense of this lesson, misusing the gifts that God gave you. The attributes of God, which we consider to be heart and mind. Heart, of course, is the ability to feel, the ability for you to register experience. And mind, of course, is your ability to think. In the text, you're told that only the thoughts that you think with God are real. Now, if your mind is preoccupied with past thoughts, then it's concentrating on what's not there. And that's what this is saying. There's some interesting lines here. I mean, let me read a couple to them. It's the purpose of the exercise for today. The purpose for the exercise today is to begin to train your mind to recognize when it is not really thinking at all. And there's an interesting word. While thoughtless ideas preoccupy your mind, the truth is blocked. Recognizing that your mind has been blank, rather than believing it is filled with real ideas, is the first step to opening the way to vision. Now, many of you are going to feel judged, are going to feel less than satisfied when you read a lesson such as this that tells you that everything you've been doing, the way you've been using your mind has been all wrong. Wrong in the sense of not morally wrong, not something you're being punished for, although you are getting the results of the misuse of your mind. You're using it in a non-creative way. You're not using your mind in alignment with its creation. And that would be to create along the lines that you were created yourself. So when we hear stuff like that, the first tendency, of course, is to feel that sense of failure. And then that panic that grips your heart. Well, what have I been doing? All the questioning. Just remember what this says. Your mind has been occupied by past thoughts, and those thoughts don't have any meaning. Those thoughts don't have any value. You're actually doing nothing. Don't get upset about the fact that you're doing nothing. Because number one, it's past, and now you can make a new start. And number two, go back to what it says in the first lesson. These are not exercises in judgment. They're not designed to help you feel continued guilt, but they are designed to help you out of your experience of guilt and get you to the point where you see what the guilt is all about. And it's obviously not about anything in this world that you've been thinking, because according to the author of A Course in Miracles, you haven't really been thinking at all. You can't really be thinking. You can't really be guilty for things that something does not happen. The thoughts that you think you're guilty for are not a real source of guilt. Guilt actually has no source in reality. It's an effect of that instant of terror that gripped us when we lost communication with our eternal, infinite, created reality. Now, the most that you can say is that the past is gone. I may not have been using it for a correct purpose, but as my mind is opening, I can begin to have it corrected and begin to use it for a correct purpose. And in the text, we're told the only true use of time is to use it to once again regain eternity, to return our mind to its eternal, infinite source and its eternal and infinite ability to create as it was created in the likeness and similitude of its creator. And of course, when we talk about creation, we're talking about what's eternal, singular, whole, perfect, and a totality. God is obviously considered a totality, the totality, all-inclusive, everything, which you can't be separate from. It's not possible to be separate from everything. So don't be disheartened when you read a lesson like this that says your mind has been preoccupied by past thoughts. It's not been doing anything, and you haven't understood the true use of time, so you haven't been able to. Now, all that's gone. That's gone, and we're starting again today, this moment. There's an interesting line at the end. Actually, the last paragraph, he says, this can be done, the exercise, the formal part of the exercise, where you examine your mind, and then you apply today's idea. I seem to be thinking about time. I seem to be thinking about people in time in the past. I seem to be thinking about places I've been. And you're simply reminded to say, oh, but my mind has been preoccupied with past thoughts. And those thoughts are thoughtless thoughts. They have no real creative value in them. So therefore, they are actually nothing. They're not anything. They're not thoughts. They're not something that you can be guilty for. The guilt that you're experiencing. And, let's just call guilt, let's put guilt as sensation. The sensation that you experience and that we judge to be what guilt is merely a discomfort that's introduced by the Holy Spirit, by the wholeness of who you are, to get your attention so that you can be turned around, so that you can begin to learn a new way to use your mind and therefore experience, the feeling component of the attributes God gave you, to feel differently, to not feel so disheartened, to not feel like you're such a failure in the midst of what may appear to be a successful life. I mean, many of you who come to this, no matter what you seem to be doing in life, when you start to talk to each other, you begin to understand that you're having the same sort of emotions. No matter what life seems to bring you, be it good, bad, or indifferent, there's this nagging sense of something not being quite right that you haven't been able to get to because it's not in the past thoughts. It's not in the past. And all that thinking, all the thinking that we do, just merely prevents us from accessing the truth, and the truth as an experience sets you free from those feelings, from those emotions that cause us to think that we're failures, to think that there's something missing, there's something wrong, what's wrong with me? No, God didn't create anything defective, and you're not defective. God creates only perfect, whole, infinite, eternal. He creates as a totality. We call that totality love. And you cannot not be separate from that totality. So therefore, everything that that totality has or is imbued with, the spirit of oneness, that is the spirit of God, you have in you too. And in a certain way, it's the spirit of oneness that has remained with you, even in this sojourn, in this break in communication. It's that spirit of oneness that actually, in a sense, let's say this, it's putting pressure on your system to integrate that spirit of oneness and wholeness into the reality, into what you're feeling and being right here and right now. So it's, of course, an integration. It's an integration of your reality. It's an integration of who you truly were created to be. So at the end here, he says these exercises, today's exercises can be done 4 or 5 times during the day, unless you find it irritates you. And then he says, okay, if it irritates you, don't worry about doing it 4 or 5 times. Do it 3 or 4 times. So he's sort of, and he says, you might find it helpful to include your irritation or any emotion that the idea for today induces. And I love the word induce because it's reminding you that everything starts within you and not outside of you. Whatever this induces as you're reading this, as you're discovering, oh wait, my mind has been preoccupied with past thoughts, and for a moment you become very suspicious of yourself, very irritated, angered, upset with what you've been doing. But if you allow this lesson in, you begin to see that you're being offered a solution, not another judgment. Don't let these be exercises in judgment. Okay? We're rearranging the associations in your mind. And where there was previously value given, let's say to the ability to think about the past and solve problems, which continues your association in time. Now, when that is no longer valuable because you value the kingdom more, the infinite and the eternal, the new association will be formulated on something that you're valuing instead of what you valued in the past. You're going to learn that time is for another reason. Time is here for me to gain eternity. And I can use time correctly and correctively to restore my mind, my thinking, my heart to its true reality, and begin to live a life where I stayed, where I seek ye first the kingdom. Begin to live a life where I'm in this world for a moment, but I'm not of this world. And we become more and more aware of the world that we're really part of. So there's an idea of reversing the temple order here when we talk about inducing. Instead of thinking that what's causing our emotions, our irritations, instead of thinking that they're outside of ourselves, we're recognizing now that they've been induced. They're coming from within us, from the way we've been thinking, the way we've been using our mind, our preoccupation with the past and its thinking has caused us to miss what's actually going on around us in reality, where we are in reality. And we felt lacking. We felt we've been in need. We've needed something. So my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. Just do the lesson as it's laid out. Don't worry about getting an outcome here. There is no outcome in the world. But there is a shift that's available in you to help you begin to experience time in a new way, to help you use your mind in a new way. So as you're being asked in the course of the day, when you find yourself thinking about the past, you just stop and say, wait a second, my mind's preoccupied with past thoughts. That's not a judgment. It's just simply a fact. You haven't really been thinking at all. The most that you could possibly have done was waste time. But in and of itself, it's already passed. It's gone. All the time that you've wasted is gone. And there's a new moment. And in this new moment, there's a new way being offered to you. And that's today's lesson. My mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. It's good information. Something good to know. It's not something to use to judge yourself. It's not something to use to put yourself down. It's just a way of understanding what's been happening to you and a way of recognizing that perhaps you don't want to do that anymore. You don't want to waste your time. You want to be about your Father's business. You want to experience the wholeness and perfection of your own reality. And as he says, it's these thoughts, the thoughtless ideas preoccupy your mind and block the truth. So we're going to begin to unblock that by seeing exactly what we're doing and not letting it be the determining factor in our realization of ourselves. Okay. Thanks for that. Hopefully we'll be back tomorrow. Just don't judge yourself. These are not exercises in judgment. They're not there. They're not being offered so you can continue to judge yourself. This is designed to help you realize your innocence and recognize the innocence of your brother and all the world around you. And if the past is gone, you can let it go. None of the past thoughts that preoccupied your mind need to be utilized in order to see what's happening right here, right now. So thanks for putting up with me, and hope to see you tomorrow.